Hello and welcome to my video. I've done a deep analysis of Ramattra's ultimate Annihilation and will present arguments to why it is overpowered. Additionally, I will suggest possible nerfs to make it balanced. Enjoy! I, team player, am writing this analysis on the 5th of December, one day before Ramattra is released, but I already know that his ultimate Annihilation is going to be overpowered. Let's see how my predictions will turn out to be true. The first Ramattra ability description was thankfully flawed. Unfortunately, the 50% damage reduction for his ult isn't a thing, but there are still many issues with it. Every other ultimate in the game is either one time or has a maximum duration. In addition, they can be countered with just abilities/shields or defensive support ults like Beat, Trans, Rally and Valkyrie, but with Ramattra's ult, even if your supports use two defensive ults, it can still be active afterward. It has a huge radius and does constant damage against all enemies in range. Now, how much damage does it do? It can kill 200 horsepower heroes in just 7 seconds. The radius is too large and it does too much damage. Compare that to DVA Bomb, Gravitic Flux, Graviton Surge, Terra Surge, Meteor Strike, Rampage, etc., which are just one-time ults that can be countered completely with shields and many abilities or simply one defensive support ult. Let's compare Annihilation to a similar ult like Orisa's Terra Surge. Number 1, larger radius that also affects enemies in the air. Number 2, he can move during the ult, unlike Orisa who stands still like a statue and can be burned down quickly. Number 3, doesn't need to charge his ult before doing damage and doesn't need to balance between damage taken himself, charging level and enemies walking out of the radius. Number 4, he can still use his weapon and abilities, Block and Ravenous Vortex, while ulting compared to Orisa who turns into a statue. Number 5, Orisa goes into Fortify while ulting, giving her 40% damage reduction, but Ramattra can use his block for 75% damage reduction while still walking towards the enemies with only a 50% movement penalty. Number 6, Annihilation can hardly be countered and negated with abilities and only very unreliably by shields. Against Terra Surge, most heroes can easily escape the radius or negate the damage. Protection Suzu, shields and Zarya bubbles can neutralize her ult completely and protect the whole team. Number 7, Annihilation lasts forever if even just one enemy is in its massive radius, unlike Terra Surge which does damage once and then it's over. As an ultimate with a huge radius, continuous damage, an uncapped duration and very little counterplay, Annihilation is clearly unbalanced compared to all other tank ultimates. Ramattra can just sit on a point/objective, especially in overtime, activate his ult and force the enemies away, leading to an easy capture/win with the press of a button. And if you try to kill him, he can just use his block forever during ult, which grants him a 75% damage reduction and only a 50% movement speed penalty. Additionally, he can just run at the enemies, with Lucio's speed boost, activate his ult and is able to attack 5 players at once, just by looking at them. It gets way too much value while requiring no skill at all and no additional ult for comboing. Furthermore, if you use defensive support ults to try to counter his ult and keep your teammates alive, they'll run out after some time while his ult remains active and you'll still die, resulting in wasted ults. Annihilation breaks the concept of trading ultimates. If you instead try to counter his ult by running away and avoiding the radius, well, too bad if you play a hero that has little mobility. Also, if the Ramattra has a Lucio in his team, he'll just get easily speed boosted and you won't be able to escape the radius, even if you have a bit of mobility. His ult cannot be countered and stopped consistently by any ability of any hero except Sleep Dart, which is negated by Protection Suzu. And the only ultimates which can consistently counter and stop Annihilation are Grav and Flux, to make him not able to move, and Whole Hog, to push him away. Unlike Annihilation, all of them can be countered with shields and many abilities, even if you don't have any ultimate. All other tanks have almost no way to reliably stop his ult and protect their teammates: DVA, Doomfist, Junker Queen, Orisa, Reinhardt, Winston, and Ball. If you play any of those heroes, then you and your whole team are basically fucked against his ult, leading to teamfights at a constant heavy disadvantage. His ultimate makes all of those tanks very risky and unreliable picks. Have fun being overrun by Ramattra's ult, which has a massive radius and that you can't counter and or escape in any way with most heroes. And there are also issues even if you play Zarya, Sigma or Roadhog that have the capability of stopping his ult. Number 1, if Ramattra gets his ult faster, then your team can't stop it at all. Number 2, in many matches, you won't be able to use your ult at any other time because your team is always dependent on your ult to counter Annihilation. Example, when we think about Grav versus Nano Blade, of course, it would be good if Zarya uses Grav against it, but she can also decide to use it at another time and you're able to counter Nano Blade with Beat or Trans instead. But support ults can't stop and reliably counter Annihilation, so you'll often be forced to use your tank ult only when Ramattra ults and not at any other time. Number 3. If you ult and successfully make Ramattra unable to move or push him away, you might think, yes, I did it, I saved my team. Well, too bad that one of your teammates went into the radius again, causing the ult to stay active, letting Ramattra overrun your team and making you lose the team fight or game. Number 4. Well, too bad for Grav and Flux if he's sitting on a payload right before a checkpoint, is next to the robot on push right before taking the lead, or stands on the point and your team needs to defend the objective or attack it in overtime. Grav and Flux are useless in this situation because you still need to be in his radius to defend the objective, so his ult is active for the entire team fight. Additionally, Whole Hog can be very unreliable, often just pushing him into a corner and you or your teammates will still be in Annihilation's radius. As you can see, there is way too little counterplay possible against Annihilation. Your whole team is dependent on one player who is capable of stopping his ultimate. When even the best tank players aren't able to counter it in many situations, guess how unstoppable the ult is going to be in lower ranks. Many low-ranked players already struggle to deal with aimbot Moira. Imagine how big of an issue it's going to be for them to counter-attack all enemies in a massive radius just by looking at them, and which can last forever. Annihilation. Overwatch 2 supposedly wanted to get away from the rock paper scissors and hard counter hero designs, but then release a hero which can punch through shields, hitting multiple enemies at once, and who also has an ultimate which can only be consistently and directly stopped by 3 tanks and in many situations by none. This needs to change. Ramattra is able to just chill in a corner on the point with his ult going and use his block ability all the time for 75% damage reduction, making him almost impossible to kill if he just receives a bit of healing, and then easily makes his team win by doing nothing. Furthermore, his primary attack Pummel in Nemesis form can kill 200 horsepower heroes with just 4 hits, which takes him only 2.4 seconds. In addition, his punches have a pretty far range, pierce through multiple enemies at once and can't be blocked by shields. And to top it off, he's also able to throw his Ravenous Vortex at you. Nobody except your tank can get close to Ramattra during his ult, which can last the entire team fight. This also results in a huge protection circle for all his teammates. All his 4 teammates can just stay next to him and are well protected within the radius of his ult. Almost every close range damage dealer won't be able to come close to the enemies anymore and do damage, or else they'll get killed very quickly. So if your idea was, oh, Ramattra is using his ult, let me target and kill the support so he won't receive healing and then die eventually, that's not possible if you don't have your ultimate. Because of the huge radius of Annihilation and Ramattra's damage output, all the following heroes can't get close enough to do decent damage and can hardly get any kills: Genji, Reaper, Sombra, Symmetra, Tracer, and Brigitte. When the enemy Ramattra is ulting and you don't have your ult, you're gonna have very low impact, and all you can do in many teamfights is run away so you don't pause the cooldown of Annihilation. If you instead try to help your tank who's fighting Ramattra in the Annihilation radius, you'll just be killed in under 7 seconds, even if you receive healing. Great gameplay, isn't it? Heroes that have little mobility won't be able to escape the radius and will just be overrun by Ramattra, who gets speed boosted by Lucio, and melted by Annihilation. Those heroes include Bastion, Cassidy, Mei, Torbjorn, Anna, Brigitte, and Zenyatta. If you don't have your ultimate, many times your only option is to let yourself be killed quickly, so you're not extending the ult. XD. The zoning capabilities and possible duration are far too great with no drawbacks whatsoever. With the addition of Ramattra and his overpowered ult, there's gonna be even less of a variation in heroes played, especially in higher ranks. This leads to a more boring and frustrating gameplay experience. You'll encounter Ramattra plus Lucio plus KarQ over and over again, mark my words. Moving on, let's imagine Ramattra versus Ramattra matchups. You're gonna have both Ramattras ulting on the point/objective, and the ults completely cover the whole area all the time. All other 8 players can't come close or else they'll just die, and so you'll have the Ramatras punching each other in the face while all other players fight one another on another part of the map away from the tanks. And when one Ramattra gets low HP, he'll just use his infinite, no cooldown 75% damage reduction block, get healed back up, and that's going to repeat over and over again. It's just completely ridiculous. Now let's imagine a team fight where both tanks use their ultimates. Gamma Mode, Control. Team A, Ramattra, Genji, Tracer, Lucio, KarQ. Team B, Sigma, Genji, Tracer, Lucio, KarQ. Situation, 99% to 99%, fight in overtime, both tanks and both Lucios have ults available, all other players are far away from their ults. Teams are fighting on the point. Ramattra activates Annihilation and it covers the whole point. Team B Lucio uses beat to try to counter Annihilation. Beat is over after 6 seconds, no more protection for Team B. Sigma activates gravitic flux. Gets easily negated by beat from Team A Lucio. Here are the problems. Annihilation is still active after the beat and will remain active throughout the whole teamfight because enemies need to touch the point to not lose. Compare that to gravitic flux, which gets easily countered with beat. This gives Ramattra and his team a constant, massive advantage with just a press of a button and 0 skill required. Annihilation cannot be stopped in any way by any ability or ultimate. Even if a team would use 2 defensive support ults, it's still active and going compared to every other ultimate in the game. Ramattra is in endless nemesis form and can use his pummel attack the whole teamfight, which hits multiple enemies at once in a pretty far zone, cannot be blocked by any shields and kills 200 horsepower heroes in only 2.4 seconds. Killing Ramattra to stop his ult is also not possible in most circumstances, because he has an infinite, no cooldown 75% damage mitigation block. Even if he gets stunned out of it, he can use it immediately again, unlike any other hero with a damage mitigation ability, in this instance, Sigma's Kinetic Grasp, which has a 12-second cooldown. So not only does Ramattra have the by far hardest to counter ultimate and in many situations uncounterable, but he also has the by far best damage mitigation ability on a 0-second cooldown. Let's put into perspective how much damage is required to kill a full HP, blocking Ramattra. 75% damage reduction means that 100 damage dealt gets reduced to only 25. So the damage needs to be multiplied by 4. 450 regular health leads to 1800 damage needed. 150 armor leads to 600 damage plus 45 damage needed, because of 30% armor damage reduction. This results in 2445 damage needed to kill an ulting, blocking Ramattra. That requires more than 8 pulse bombs, and it's not factoring in all the healing that he can receive during that time. Just 600 healing received results in over 2400 additional damage needed. Good luck with trying to ever kill him. Furthermore, the drawback of only blocking damage from the front is also easily negated if he just sits in a corner, which protects his back completely, and most control points have multiple. I can imagine these funny situations happening. In overtime, Ramattra players press Q, sit in a corner, use the infinite block, go AFK and eat popcorn, while doing massive amounts of damage by just existing and easily winning the teamfight. And you could even throw Molten Core or Dragon Strike against him, but his block also mysteriously reduces their damage by 75% with the result of him surviving comfortably. These gameplay clips will go viral and perfectly display the absurdity of this overpowered ultimate. Hopefully, they will lead to nerfs by the devs. Talking about Annihilation, the hero design team explained, he gives enemies 2 options with this ultimate, either eliminate him or move, except he's by far the hardest hero to kill during his ultimate and you're not able to move away in overtime and many other situations, plus many heroes don't have the mobility required. It's a fundamentally flawed, broken and unbalanced ultimate and should not be released this way. So how to balance Annihilation? Reduce the radius. Decrease the damage. This is the most important change, make it have a fixed maximum duration like every other ult. Something like 8 to 12 seconds would be balanced. It would be even better if Annihilation gets reworked because it is the most boring and brain-dead ult in the game. You press a button, enemies in a radius take consistent damage and that's it. It's also the most unfun ult to play against and requires no strategy and no skill. Press a button and all enemies take damage in a massive radius just by looking at them. Use it before checkpoints and save it for overtime to get easy and guaranteed value, dealing lots of damage in a massive radius that can't be avoided or blocked. In many situations, it's just gonna be Ramattra presses Q and wins. Annihilation in its current form doesn't belong in Overwatch. Adding new heroes to the game should bring more variety and options to choose from, but the addition of Ramattra in his current form achieves the exact opposite. He makes many other tanks unviable and has in lots of situations an ultimate which is unstoppable. Overall, he is a cool tank with engaging gameplay and a rich and compelling story, but his ultimate needs some nerfs and a fixed maximum duration. Because currently, what the first tempo tank accomplishes is breaking the fundamental concept of ultimate counterability that has existed forever in Overwatch, and we need to demand quick balance changes for his overpowered Annihilation. Thanks for listening to my TED Talk, and I'm looking forward to hearing your feedback and opinions. Have a nice day. P.S. You can call me Prophet Team Player if you want.